Blah, 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 November 18th, 2017. Don Tony here. No musical intro today because I want to open up with a very controversial subject. More a question before I get into the topic. Now, I want each and every one of you out there to really take a step back and think about the question that I ask you. You don't have to answer it publicly, but I really want you to take a step back and think about it. All right? You're in a club. It could be with your friends. It could be by yourself. I don't care. You're in the club, hanging out, music's playing. All different age groups are in the club, from 16 to 66. And I specifically say 16 because you happen to live in a state where 16 is the consensual age to have sex. You're hanging out in the club. You meet a girl. She's 16 years old. You're in your early 20s. She may not show you ID that she's 16. She may lie and say she's 18 or 19. Maybe she does show you her ID and she's 16. Now you're hanging out, you're having a nice time, and she wants you to take her home. You're hanging out with her, one thing leads to another, and you sleep with each other. Is that morally offensive to you? If someone is of legal age, 16, sleeps with someone in their early 20s, is that morally offensive? It's not legally offensive. It's not a crime. Is it offensive to you? You, yourself. You're in a club, early 20s, meet a girl 16. You're allowed to sleep with her because you live in a state that has that age. Is it okay? And again, you don't have to answer this publicly, but I want you to think about the answer that you're saying right now. Now, I want you to think of the same club, the same scenario, and that 16-year-old meets someone 40. Now, it's still legally fine. No crimes committed. Are you offended by it? Do you think it's wrong? Now, for some of you out there that may feel that you're offended by it, what would you also say to yourself? Hey, I'm offended by it. It's not breaking any laws, just not something I would do. Now, before I go any further, this has zero to do with Roy Moore, who was running for Senate in Alabama. This actually has to do with something related to pro wrestling. And I know a lot of you out there have heard me say before, blah, 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 it's not a wrestling show. We're not talking about Survivor Series, not going to talk about anything like that. But if there is real life things going on that involve someone who is in and around wrestling, we're going to talk about it. I will get into it a little bit, the situation with David Otunga and Jennifer Hudson, which is an absolute mess. But there's another mess that is brewing right now, and it is about to explode. And we have to really be careful as a country going forward. And I know a lot of you out there listen that live outside the United States. I can only speak for the country that I live in. But I'm really concerned about a lot of things in this world. I'm obviously concerned about how we're divided, how the racial tension is nothing that I could remember growing up in my lifetime. The political discourse and just the absolute horrid relationship on both sides of the aisle, it's depressing. And when the Harvey Weinstein story broke couple of months ago, I came up here and I said, everyone be prepared. You're going to hear this happen in the music world, sports, wrestling, other aspects. It's going to be everywhere. And yes, there are victims in every scenario I just mentioned. But there is also another problem going on in this country. And it's something that it's going to be fucked up for me to say. And when I say this, it's a very small, tiny percentage of people out there that this has to do with. But all you need is one. And all you need is the right, what would be the right way? When Sandy hit, Superstorm Sandy, I remember they said that everything aligned perfectly for the wrong reasons. Like the hemisphere was this, and this was this, and the tide was this, and everything was all hitting at the right time for the wrong reason. It was a recipe for disaster, and this is something as well. I totally understand that women who are abused 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago may have been afraid to speak up. You're afraid nobody will believe you. You're afraid you'll be an outcast. You're afraid you'll lose your job. You're afraid you'll be disowned. You're afraid of this. You're afraid of that. I've told this story many times. We had this pedophile in our neighborhood. Me and my friends, we were, in the early teens, corner of my friend's house in the wintertime. And when I was a kid, the big thing that you would buy as a toy in the wintertime was like this square igloo thing. I don't remember what the name of it was, but I'm sure people that are in their 40s and above will remember it. They used to sell it in Toys R Us. You could make igloos. And I remember my mother buying it for me, my father buying it for me, and all it was a square fucking piece of plastic. And you shoved snow in it, and you would pack it in really nice, you would put it on the floor, and then you would just keep doing that over and over. It's $10, square piece of plastic, nothing. But I remember me and my friends standing on the corner of my friend's house, building this little igloo because the corner of my friend's house had this big open area because it used to be this gigantic tree at the time, and they had taken it down. It was hollow. It was rotten. So we used to build little igloo there and hang out in it. And then ultimately you get pricks that would walk by and they would kick it and break it apart. And it would only last one day. But I remember this pedophile lived on my friend's block, came over, watched us, checked out what we were doing. Next thing I know, he grabs my friend's crotch. And I can't tell you how many times we hit this motherfucker with ice balls and snowballs and chased him away. We told everyone in the neighborhood what he did. He got banished. He was out of that neighborhood in no time. Now, with the Roy Moore scandal, as I said before, I will not criticize the victims, the alleged victims, because we don't know if it's true or if it isn't. My problem with that whole issue is all the family members, all the friends, all the relatives, everybody that claimed that they knew from 40 years ago. On behalf of your teenage daughter, your teenage niece, your teenage friend, how the fuck does not one of those people step up and say something? You allow that guy to prosper and build and stay in the United States government for 40 years and you say nothing. It just blows my mind. And again, this has nothing to do with the victims, but I am going to get into a problem that is about to explode in the wrestling world, and wrestling is just a part of it. But what I will say once again, talking about the Roy Moore thing, is that I know that if my parents knew what this motherfucker did to my friend and tried to do to me also, my father would have walked to this guy's house, grabbed him by the fucking throat, beat the living shit out of him in the middle of the street. Never told my father. Still doesn't know to this day. I tell all of you before I tell my own family. But it just blows my mind how family members, friends, relatives that claim they know this stuff for 40 years and do absolutely nothing about it. But there is another problem going on in this world, and you have to take this very, very seriously. This is not Don Tony just, spreading bullshit or conspiracy theories. Again, this is just an opinion show. I'm giving you my opinion. Whether you agree with it or not, fine. All I ask is that you respect how I feel about a particular topic. I will respect your view if it's totally different. But there is something about the United States that every single person out there needs to remember. In this country, we are innocent until proven guilty. And that goes across the gamut. You can't pick and choose what you find morally reprehensible, and because it's so offensive to you that you have to immediately feel that someone is guilty until they prove themselves innocent. It is the opposite. Notice how you see certain things going on in this country. Harvey Weinstein, for example. This guy has admitted to everything that he is being accused of. But his dispute is that it was consensual. You see, Louis C.K., I never fucking watched that guy. I don't care about that guy. But he immediately admitted to it. So when they admit to what they did, even if in their mind they thought, hey, I wasn't doing nothing wrong, I thought it was consensual on both sides, they are admitting that they had done something. When someone emphatically denies that they never did something, in this country, you have to remember what our foundation is. We are innocent until proven guilty. And again, this has zero to do with Roy Moore right now. This is just in general. But we are now living in a country where you have to ask yourself, is it harder to prove that you did something or harder to prove that you didn't do something? And when you have someone that claims 30 years later, 25 years later, 40 years later, that someone harassed them when they were young, I mean, you get to a point where you have to say to yourself, okay, if it's just as hard to disapprove it, then prove it, you may have thoughts in the back of your mind that someone did it. That person may just look creepy to you and you may feel he did it. But what if he didn't? And here's another thing, and this is where I was leading to with the explosion that is about to happen in pro wrestling. And this is a horrible, horrible mess that we're about to see. And this goes as far as music, entertainment, sports, pro wrestling, baseball. And I know it's going to sound really cold and insensitive, but I think deep down inside, almost everybody out there will agree with me on this. If you are a girl and you're infatuated with a heavy metal band, you're a guy, you're infatuated with a female valet, all right? But let's stick with women because women seem to be the biggest victims here, all right? There are athletes, musicians, politicians that will take advantage of someone. They will manipulate them. They will talk them into sleeping with them. That's fucked up. But there are women out there from the beginning of time that are infatuated with celebrities, infatuated with sports athletes, infatuated with wrestlers, infatuated with politicians. What do people call them? They call them groupies. They call them ring rats. I hate to say it, they call them sluts. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, you hear stories about, and believe me, I'm going to be very careful here, and I'm not going to single out any one person in anything that I'm saying right now. You could fill in the blank and put any band you want, any wrestler, any celebrity, but there are people out there that are obsessed. And if you are a rat, if you are a groupie, if you are whatever you want to call it, I know in this day and age it sounds pretty harsh to call someone a slut or this and that. If that is what you want to do, and if you chase after athletes and celebrities and you sleep with all of them because you just love, sleeping with famous people, and you're young, if you're naive, that doesn't make you a victim. You're naive. And you get 20, 30, 40 years later where now, you know what? The athletes and the celebrities, they don't want nothing to do with you. They don't want someone in their 40s. They don't want someone who's got more chins than a fucking Chinese restaurant. They move on. So what happens? It's a psychological issue. Of course, it's a physical issue. I mean, it's fun to have sex. It feels good to have sex. Imagine someone who is promiscuous that likes to sleep with famous people. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you do it, but at the end, it's a psychological issue. That feeling of need to be wanted, have the center of attention. Do you know what it's like for a girl to be in a wrestling locker room as a teenager and everybody is paying their attention to you and they're giving you an opportunity to be on a show and they're sleeping with you, and if whether you're 16, 17, 18, if you live in a state where that is the legal age to sleep with someone, just because 40 years later or 20 years later or 30 years later, it's fucked up of what Harvey Weinstein did. It's fucked up of what Louis C.K. did. It's fucked up what Kevin Spacey did. It's fucked up what they did to others. But that doesn't mean because you're embarrassed, ashamed, or regret what you did, that doesn't make you a victim. And that doesn't make the people that did it to you fucked up. So there's this valet in wrestling that used to be in an organization, ECW, back in 1993, 1994. Her name was Angel. I know who she was. Of course I knew who she was. She was the Virgin Angel. It was a rib because she was a ring rat. But she was of age. She was 19 years old in 1994. She was 18 years old in 1993. Trust me, I already did the research. I ran some background checks, which you can legally do online. I got all my info. Now, the controversy is this. There is a wrestler, and I can mention this part. Mick Foley had a book signing last week. And she comes out with billboards and cardboard, oat tags, standing in front of the book signing, and it says that he slept with her when she was 12. Now, if you do the math, that means he slept with her in 1988 or 1989. Now, the earliest I could find her ever being on a show, same show with Mick Foley, is 1990. It was a benefit show in Pennsylvania. And at that time, she was either 15 or 16. Now, between me and you, there is no reason why a 15 or a 16-year-old should be on a wrestling show, period. But in Pennsylvania, the consensual age to sleep with someone is 16 years old. Now, remember, she's accusing Mick Foley of sleeping with her when she was 12, which, if you actually figure out the years, it does not add up whatsoever. But when you go further on it, when she was in ECW in 1993 and 1994, she was already 18 to 19 years old. And without naming names, quite a few wrestlers did sleep with her. I'm not going to deny that. But my point is whether she was 16, 17, or 18 years old. She slept with a whole bunch of different wrestlers during that time. If she is of legal age, you might find it morally reprehensible. I might find it morally reprehensible. But that doesn't mean that those wrestlers did anything wrong. It doesn't mean that those musicians, athletes, anybody did anything wrong. If you were naive and young and stupid and you make mistakes, you grow up. You learn by your mistakes. You try to help others. But to turn around and make billboards and accuse people of sexual abuse because you're a ring rat is wrong. It doesn't matter what element of entertainment you want to put this in. Again, it's fucked up to have people take advantage of others, but we're human beings. We make mistakes. We make bad judgments. Some people marry some people just for their money, and the other person doesn't realize it. What happens later on? You realize you got suckered. You got used. It's not a crime. It might be morally reprehensible. And don't get me wrong. Yes, it could turn into a crime when there's fraud. But if someone is more attracted to you, to your money than yourself, if they're more attractive to the fact that you're like a father figure to them than anything else, if they're attractive, if an older person is attractive to a younger person of age because it makes them feel young again, it might be a little awkward for you, but it doesn't mean that it's legally, criminally wrong. And what I am afraid of is that this woman, Angel, and there are a lot of angels out there. There are tons and tons of them. But in this day and age, if Roy Moore did what he did, the people that are coming forward are victims. The people that are accusing Kevin Spacey, if he admits guilt or it's proven, yeah, they're victims. And yes, there are a lot of victims out there that will never be able to prove that something actually happened. But I go back to what I said earlier. I blame it more on the relatives, the family members. When someone is considered a minor, as a parent, as a relative, even if your kid is brainwashed, obsessed with someone older, you have to be the parent and step up and say, fuck that. I'm going to a counselor. I'm going to the cops. I'm going to break the motherfucker's legs. I'm going to do this and that. You can't just turn around and say, well, you know what? Because my daughter and my son is 15 or 14 and he's really upset, I'm going to give him a chocolate shake and never do anything about it. I'm not going to get him counseling. I'm not going to call the cops. I'm not going to report this person. Every time that person is alleged of doing something else that you didn't do, you're going to take a stand. So again, young people that are very young, under 16, there's a reason why there is a certain age where you're allowed to be consent. You're under that age, it's a crime. And you have to step up on behalf of your child, your niece, your nephew, your friends, whoever, your neighbor, and fucking speak up about it. Don't let it just bottle in for 30 or 40 years and then fuck up that person's life. Let them think that it's maybe acceptable what they did. But again, we're in an age, and I've talked about this. I had a conversation with Mish on Breakfast Soup, which was an awesome conversation, is that social media is the number one problem in this world right now. Social media, I don't want to say it's as bad as ISIS, because ISIS, you're talking about killing people. Social media is not trying to kill people. But social media is probably the biggest nonviolent problem that this world has right now. To me, it's worse than opioids. Because opioids, yeah, once you take it, you get addicted. It takes over your body. That you have to seek out help. But you look at social media, and it's poisoning tons and tons of people out there because, number one, you have this warped view about whatever, race, religion, country, Trump, Black Lives Matter, fucking anything. You could have a warped view on something, and you will find tens and thousands of people who have the same warped view as you, and now, because other people feel the same way as you, now you justify that warped view. And it metastasizes, it builds, it snowballs into a disaster. And that's why you see more and more whack jobs acting out on stuff. Because when they go out and they act on it, they feel like they're actually accomplishing something. And they actually, in some cases, think that they could, if they survive it, they'll go back on social media and expect to have 100,000 thumbs up. Hey, cool what you did. Hey, cool, you beat up those motherfuckers. Hey, you did this, you did that. This social media is giving every person out there a platform to get attention. And like I said on last week's blah, 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 there are a lot of people in this world that are lonely. There are a lot of people in this world that are depressed. There are a lot of people who use the internet as their quote-unquote world. And they need the attention. They need to feel wanted. They're rejected in relationships. They're rejected as far as maybe their local community. They're very, they're loners. And they're home and they're doing nothing and they're not building their future. They're not building family, not building relationships. So they go on social media and they try to get attention that way. Some people do it and they'll just spew hate because they know if they spew hate about one side of the aisle or the other side of the aisle, there'll be a lot of other people that will step up and agree with you and like it. And you're like, wow, I feel like I'm in one big happy family, cool group of people. Then you have people out there that will post all of these superhero things that they did. Hey, everybody, I fucking saw somebody on the corner and he was choking on a fucking piñata. So I fucking gave him mouth to mouth and I fucking saved his life. Wow, feel accomplished. So they could get a couple hundred people. Oh, cool. You're the man. You're this, you're that, you're this. Hey, everybody, wow, I saw all these stray animals walking down the street. So you know what? I fucking built a little fucking restaurant and fed them all today. And oh, cool, you're such a good-hearted person. You're this, you're that, you're this. Hey, everybody, I fucking wish me well. I got to go to the hospital today. I might fucking be diagnosed with this, or I might, hey, praying for you, thinking about you, love you. Hey, everybody, wow, would you believe it? There was this fucking guy being a real asshole to this girl in the post office. So I fucking stepped up and I told him off and put him in his place. And wow, this guy, what a fucking dick. Oh, wow, you're the man. You speak up. Wow, I wish I had a boyfriend I wish you were my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And they make all these scenarios. Hey, everybody, this happened to me today. Hey, everybody, I did this to someone today. That's why I have this guilty conscience. And I said it last week when I posted my medication that I got diagnosed with high blood pressure. When I fucking had to go to the hospital a month and a half ago, and I, had that incident, I posted the photo of me in the hospital. When I broke my fucking tooth in half, I took the half a tooth and I put it next to my bobblehead. So you didn't think I just took a Google image search for a broken tooth. Why? Because I see so many people over and over again claiming all of these scenarios, but yet you never see any proof behind it. And yeah, of course, there's some people out there that are being totally honest. There's people I know that are being totally honest, but I see the crap going around on the net, and you see it in celebrities too. I talk about, what's her face? The fucking chick from Who's the Boss? Alyssa Milano. Now, look, she definitely fights for good causes in this country. The problem is that a lot of times, because she doesn't get the attention that she was aiming to get, especially against Trump, she will create these fictitious accusations. And I caught her in one, and she blocked me as a result of it. She was in Manhattan. I've told the story before. She was in Manhattan not too long ago. And this fucking Materazzi will take a selfie for every little excuse in the book. And she will post things all the time with pictures and videos. So she goes to the city, and she comments online that she was just in tears, crying hysterically. And this was to shit on Trump about being pro-Nazi and everything because of what happened with Charlottesville, and he made the stupid remark that there was good people on both sides. I totally understand why he said it, even though it was wrong, it was stupid. He should have just fucking come out and just shit it on the white supremacists and leave it at that. You know, but she said that she went to the city with her family. She walked into some toy store, and every those wooden soldiers, the nutcrackers, whatever the fuck they are, she said every single one of them was in the Nazi salute position, and she was crying. It led her to tears, crying hysterical. Now, anybody that knows Alyssa Milano, if she's going to out someone or something, she is going to post it, repost it, retweet it, ask everybody to spread it, and will do everything she can to fucking expose that person, place, or thing. So when she wrote this, she never mentioned the store. She never mentioned where it was in the city. She never took a picture of it. But yet the phone that she tweeted it from, she didn't just snap a picture. So I called her out. What was the name of the place? If you're crying and you're tweeting from your phone, why didn't you snap a picture? Why don't you tell us the name of the place? Why wouldn't you out that? And she ignored it until people started saying the same thing. I mean, I'm not fucking revolutionary with my thoughts. I'm sure a lot of you out there would have thought the same thing, but that's what happens. There are people out there that will make these accusations. You think every single person who is claiming victim right now against a celebrity, against a sports person, is really a victim? You don't think that there's some people out there that are doing it for attention? You don't think there's some people out there that are doing it for money? You don't think there's some people out there doing it to try to clear their head of the stupidity they did when they were young? That's why, the reason why I brought up this Angel one from wrestling, that is very, very scary, because Mick Foley is one of the kindest people on this earth. I witnessed firsthand what that man was doing, and I've said this for fucking 15 years between the hotlines and the podcast, that guy, if you had $1 for every time he did something good for someone, that the cameras were never fucking there to record, you'd be a millionaire right now. That guy's involved with RAIN, with 2 N's, to help women who are abused. Now, is it possible in his early 20s that he slept with a 16-year-old Angel Amoroso? Or a 17-year-old? Yeah, it's possible. All right. Was it legal? Yes, it was. Was it morally reprehensible to some of you out there? Possibly. But what could very well happen, and I talked to Joey Numbers earlier about this, and I got to give him credit because he said it also. You know, I don't want to steal his comment, but he said it too. Mick Foley, the good person that he is, may eventually step up and say, hey, listen, you know, yes, I was one of several that slept with her, you know, but she was of consensual age at the time. I regret it. Did not understand, you know, that the women were, that she shouldn't have been treated this way and this and that. And I've been doing everything I can for countless years to help other women and this and that. And then it's going to put credence into what she said. Do I think she's a victim? You know, when she's of legal age and you start changing the age and taking a couple of years off to make it look illegal, to try to cover up your stupidity, your ignorance, and your obsession of being around famous people at that time and sleeping with them, you're trying to clear your own mind. And if that's what you do, fine. But at the same time, though, you're gonna, if Mick Foley steps up and admits to this, apologizes to this, he didn't do anything illegal. And again, it might be morally reprehensible to some of you out there, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, something is a little morally reprehensible. Look at fucking Andrew Dice Clay. Andrew Dice Clay is one of my favorite comedians of all time. I remember seeing Dice first fucking row with my friend at Madison Square Garden. Still have the ticket stub. Had a goddamn awesome time. This was 1990, I think, or 1991. We had a fucking unbelievable time and loved it. I was originally supposed to go with my girlfriend. I offered my girlfriend to go. I ain't going to that fucking asshole. He's fucking, you hear his shit? He's fucking reprehensible. I wouldn't watch him. My girlfriend thought he was fucking terrible. So I went with my friend instead. Family Guy. I enjoy Family Guy. I laugh at a lot of the hidden jokes and this, and I get all of it. But there's some people that I know that absolutely are offended, angry, upset, will never go near. Fine. If it's morally reprehensible to you, then you stay away from it, you ignore it, you don't follow it, you don't support it. But you don't fucking go on this crusade to kill it, to bring it down, to try to shut it off, to try to silence it, to try to belittle the person. And that's what's going on in this country right now. There are a lot of people who have made mistakes over the years. A lot of people. I've made mistakes. All of you out there have made mistakes. We have had bad relationships. We've made bad judgments. We have dated people that we shouldn't have. We have done things that we regret. But at the end of the day, if you did something stupid and naive and dumb when you were young, and you grow up now and you're embarrassed by it, or if now people are criticizing you or making, remember that fucking girl, the virgin Angel? Yeah, she wasn't no virgin. If you don't like the criticism that you're getting now because you were nothing but a ring rat back then, you can't turn around and say, oh yeah, I'm going to bring your motherfucking ass down. Oh yeah, I'm going to besmirch that person because he's dead now. Oh yeah, I'll say that Eddie Gilbert fucking raped me when I was 12. Oh yeah, I'll say it. You can't do that. And this is the problem that's going on in this country right now. At the end of the day, it is innocent until proven guilty. And at the end of the day, if you can't prove something, that it happened, and you can't prove that it didn't happen, you need to take a step back and say, hey, you know what? I don't believe that person. I have no way to prove it, but I don't believe him. In the case of Roy Moore, you don't believe him, but there's no proof. Then you know what? You don't vote him into office. That's what you could do.